Hi everyone and welcome to today's Chrissy B Show, and we are of course the UK's only programme dedicated to mental health and well-being. Today we'll be hearing the story of Anisha Gangotra, who was involved in a severe car accident that affected her both physically and mentally. She'll be telling us about that terrible day when she literally saw a car up in the air and then hurtled towards her, but also about how she pulled through all that trauma. Now, one of the things that affected Anisha after the accident was PTSD. So Dr Audrey Tang, our psychologist, will be explaining this condition. News correspondent Helena Chard brings you positive reports in this week's A Helping of Happy, and recently we showed you how to be kind to your gut by making fermented foods such as sauerkraut. But there are lots more things that can be fermented, so we go back to the Fermentarium to show us how to work the same magic with lemons. We also have on Dr Rob Hicks, who will be answering your medical questions, including one about a concerned viewer whose hair is breaking and falling out. And we also have on our nutritionist Hannah Richards back in the studio with us to show us an easy and healthy recipe. But let's go straight to our first guest for now, Anisha Gangotra.
Hi Chrissy and viewers. I'm going to be talking about my mental health, what caused my mental health issues, how I managed to cope, and then how I actually managed to turn it from a negative and a really difficult period in my life into a positive. Life before the accident was very busy and very full. So I was quite focused on my career at the time. 3 years prior to the accident, one of my sisters was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And for me, it shifted my focus a little bit in terms of my career, because suddenly I was thinking about a future where, my sister would potentially maybe need some care or some support. And I wanted to be able to provide that. So I was working very hard in my career and really enjoying it too. And then socially, I was doing lots of different things. So I had played hockey for many years, and it was a really big part of my life. Very much for me, it was about de-stressing, being in the moment, being with my team. And I had played to quite a high level as well. So it's something that which was really ingrained in my life. And I also had been doing some dancing. So I'd done a bit of hip hop, a bit of Bollywood dance, and I just generally loved to dance, going out with my friends, hitting the dance floor. And again, just really being with my friends, enjoying socialising, going to the theatre, concerts, and just doing what a lot of 20-somethings were doing at that time, just really trying to live life to the full. And make the most of, the time that I had to really enjoy myself. The car accident I had took place in 2011 when I was 27 years old. And essentially what happened, I was actually driving on my way to the office to see my team. I was due to start a new job. So I was going there to basically just meet my new team, have a bit of lunch and have an opportunity to spend a bit of time with them before my official start date. So it was a beautiful day and I was on my way to the office, driving along a dual carriageway at about 70 miles an hour. And the first thing I knew that something was wrong was when I saw a car literally up in the air. And it was just hurtling towards me from in the air. And essentially what had happened was the car had been travelling the opposite way in the direction to myself, and for some reason had lost control and basically flipped over the central reservation and essentially landed on my car. So it all happened really quickly. It was more or less sort of head-on collision at 70 miles an hour. So the impact was huge. And, it was very much a, survival mode that I went into. So, the airbags went off on impact. I didn't really quite comprehend what was going on. But in those moments, I wear glasses, so my glasses had flown off. I couldn't quite see. I was trying to find them, and then also whilst I was trying to find them, I could smell smoke. So my immediate thought was, oh my gosh, I can smell smoke. I'm in my car, there's petrol, my car could blow any minute. So I was desperately trying to find my glasses. I found my glasses so I could see, and I was trying to get out of the driver's side. I was by myself, trying to get out of the driver's door, and it was completely jammed. So instinct literally just kicked in, and I managed to essentially crawl through the gap between the front seat and the passenger seat, onto the back seat and out the back door, and sort of crawled to the central reservation. And the cars were basically written off. The other person was in their car had actually flipped over and landed on its roof on my side of the carriageway. So it was all pretty horrific. It's something really that you see in a movie and think, well, that would never happen. I was sort of expecting Vin Diesel or The Rock, from Fast and Furious to, run out and come and save me. And yeah, it was really quite traumatic. I was definitely in shock. So immediately after the accident, I was waiting for the emergency services. And I was in shock because I remember just shaking. My hands were shaking. I couldn't stop them. I was finding it very difficult to try to verbalise things as well. But at the same time, I remember I was babbling. So, I was worried the fact that the dual carriageway had to be closed off and all the cars and lorries were being diverted. And I remember saying to the person who was looking after me at the time, oh my gosh, all these people are going to be late for their meetings or for work or to get their train or something. So I really wasn't making a huge amount of sense. And, I was waiting for the paramedics to arrive. All the emergency services attended and they were fantastic. So the police were there, the fire brigade came, and obviously also paramedics. So I was taken to hospital in ambulance and checked over. And I was actually really lucky. So the police had actually said when they saw obviously the accident and the remains of the accident, they hadn't been expecting anyone to have survived it, let alone, almost unscathed. And I was very lucky in that it was all soft tissue injury, so very severe whiplash. I had cuts and bruises, but I didn't have any broken bones or what would be considered any life-changing physical injuries. However, it did take a number of years to actually recover from the physical impact of the accident because the collision had been such high speed and with such force. So I remember coming back from the hospital and just having a splitting headache, and then over time realising just how much I hurt everywhere. I was in constant pain. I had regular headaches. They were essentially constant headaches for months and months on end. And it felt like I had lost all strength in my body. So I was struggling to be able to get out of bed by myself. I struggled to cut up my food. And you sort of think, well, how much strength do you really need to cut up food? And it was only then that I realised just how many muscles you use, even just to do the simplest things. So physically, things were really hard. It was literally like everything had been taken away from me overnight. In terms of my mental health, I was really focused on recovering physically. So I wasn't really paying that much attention to my mental health. And it was when I actually spoke to a psychologist who said to me, when I explained some of the things I was experiencing, that perhaps I was actually suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And it turns out I was, and I would then also go on to experience anxiety and depression. So many of my symptoms included having flashbacks, having nightmares when I was asleep, terrible things happening in my dreams. I was hypervigilant when I was in a car, so I was always looking out for dangers and what might happen, and I would see things happening in front of me which they weren't actually happening, so I would imagine an accident happening in front of me. And in terms of some of the other symptoms I experienced, so I did have depression. My mood just hit rock bottom. I was struggling to be motivated to do things. I was crying uncontrollably, and there would be no emotional release from the crying. It was just continuous. And then in terms of anxiety, very much just constantly being on edge, finding it really difficult to relax. And there were certain triggers for me as well. So the smell of smoke was a trigger, particularly because obviously, I smelt smoke when the accident happened from my car. Sound was also a trigger for me. So when I heard someone, for example, just crushing a fizzy drinks can and throwing it in the bin, that triggered a response in my body, because to me it sounded like the clashing of the metal when the two cars impacted. So there were various triggers, which wasn't something that I would have expected, but actually was triggering a response in me. And at the time, I actually didn't really know or understand what I was suffering with. It was just very much a case of just trying to get through each day.
Thank you very much to Anisha, and we're going to be hearing more from her a bit later on. But now it's time to speak to Dr Audrey Tang. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
So PTSD is something that Anisha experienced. Can you explain exactly what it is?
Yes, post-traumatic stress disorder is what PTSD stands for. And that is when the body responds in the same way as it would as a stress reaction. In other words, we start breathing very heavily, our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure goes up, we might start sweating, we palpitate, and it's a very unpleasant feeling because the body is preparing to fight or run away. With PTSD, however, it happens without the stressor necessarily being present. Okay. So in the case of a car accident, what could trigger those same sensations of panic and unpleasantness can be the sound of a car horn. It could be the sound of a car just rushing past. And that can be very scary for the person because they're not in that situation anymore, but they're still experiencing the symptoms. Yeah. Worse still, they can also have things like flashbacks and nightmares, and the feelings can actually then trigger other mental health issues. So for example, if you are worried about feeling so panicky every time you hear a car, you might stop going out, which means you start withdrawing. People might stop asking you to go out, so that can lead to depression and isolation. Similarly, if it was something like a car accident, you might suddenly think, oh, what about my children, or what about my family? Would they be in an accident? And that can lead to a lot of anxiety. Worse still, it can even result in obsessive compulsive disorders, because what we're trying to do often is find some sort of control that we can put back onto our lives, and that might start us doing all kinds of superstitious or strange behaviours because we're thinking, oh no, if I do that, then something won't happen. And unfortunately, that can be incredibly disruptive in our lives. There are a couple of things that can make PTSD more likely to occur, and that can be because when we were being supported through the incident, we weren't supported perhaps as well as we could have been. Alternatively, if there were psychological issues prior to that, or maybe you were in a very chaotic lifestyle, that too can also make the propensity to experience these after effects much greater.
What can a person do then to get help and to treat this?
That's the best thing. Talk about it. If you try and self-medicate, if you try and just avoid the situation, that can result in more problems. Be honest with people. Tell people, oh, I'm not keen to go out now because I'm still concerned, I'm still worried, and maybe they will be able to help you in working through it with somebody else. Another thing that's worth thinking about is whether the sensation of panic or fear that you feel is really in response to the stressor at hand. So in other words, if you've had a car accident and maybe you panic about going back into the car, but prior to that accident, you were living a very stressful, very frenetic kind of life. And it might be that the fear is actually somewhere you're unconscious saying to you, don't go back to that lifestyle. Don't go back to that.
Yeah.
And that could actually be stopping you wanting to go into the car, because the car is the gateway back into that life again. So be aware that it's not, that it is actually the car or the plane or whatever it is.
That's quite a good time to reflect as well, doesn't it then?
It really is. Any kind of traumatic event is often a bit of a warning shot. We got lucky. Those scars are there because we've survived it. And therefore it's a good time to be able to take stock, because your body will probably already have had to take a step back because you're getting well again.
That's it.
Therefore it's really important to keep an eye and be aware of what our minds are thinking as well, because our unconscious is really quite clever, and it might be trying to communicate with us in the only way it knows how, which is causing us to behave in ways that are unusual.
Audrey, thank you so much, my love.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Well, everybody, after the break, we hear more from our real-life story guest, Anisha Gangotra, about how she pulled through all the trauma following a terrible car accident. And news correspondent Helena Chard brings you positive reports in this week's A Helping of Happy. So the reason that we did the dance, through the dance, I wanted to actually show the fight against depression.
The dance is so symbolic.
Waving the flags, I think it's like saying to your worries, go away and don't come back.
I did like the dance and everything.
For example, this move, does anyone know what this one means when you do
All the depression out and all the sadness out and like all the scariness out.
I see you back in the studio!
Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everybody. So before the break, we heard the first part of Anisha's story of being in a terrible car accident, and she told us all about what happened, and now we're going to see the second part of her story.
The way in which I coped and what pulled me through were various things. So I had therapy over a number of years. So I had various courses of cognitive behavioural therapy, which for me personally, I found helpful in terms of being able to, for example, bring my anxiety down much quicker when I was triggered. But what I found was that this particular technique, although can be very effective for post-traumatic distress disorder, wasn't actually helping me in terms of addressing the actual cause and the triggers for me, which was obviously the car accident. So I then went on to have a therapy called EMDR, and that stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. The other things that helped me cope was having really supportive friends and family, having a really supportive network, because you feel really alone. Well, you know, when I was experiencing these symptoms, I felt so alone and so isolated because I didn't know anyone else that had experienced them. But also it was such a unique experience for me that I just thought, well, actually, I don't think anyone else will be able to understand. And to be honest, at the time, even I didn't really fully understand what was going on. I couldn't understand why I was struggling to concentrate, why I couldn't remember things, why I just wanted to cry uncontrollably. But the other thing that I did, which was something which I really wanted to do for myself, and it was something for me to focus on, was I started to teach dance. So as I said, I have always loved dance. And after the accident, it was really difficult because I couldn't do anything physical. I was having rehabilitation and physiotherapy, but I was really missing playing hockey, being with my team and doing something social. So I started going to Zumba classes, which I absolutely fell in love with. You know, I could go along, do what I was able to do based on my injuries and as I began to recover. So what I decided to do was in 2015, I started teaching. So I became a licensed Zumba instructor, and I also started teaching inclusive dance. Now, inclusive dance is about providing a space for people who have disabilities, long-term conditions, mental health issues, but also for those who don't have any of those things, and everyone is coming together because they love music and because they love dancing. And it was something which was very difficult in the beginning. You know, I was struggling with my memory, with concentration and remembering things. So how was I supposed to remember 15 different choreographies for a 1-hour class? So I actually found it was helping me in terms of some of my symptoms, and I was doing things to actually help manage some of my symptoms and try to cope with them. But where it was actually really important for me was it provided me with a space. It provided me with a space to provide others with the space to be able to come along, enjoy themselves, dance, but where there was no judgment. Because when I had been going to the dance classes after the accident, I made friends, I started to become more social, I started to become less isolated. So it wasn't just about the physical benefits, it was actually about the mental health benefits, as well as being part of a community. And that's what really drove me. That's why I became really passionate that I wanted to provide that space for other people. So in my classes, I teach people who have varying disabilities or long-term conditions. So I have students who have cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, who are amputees, alongside people who don't have any disabilities or long-term conditions. And it's amazing because it's really provided an opportunity to create a dialogue, to raise awareness about these conditions and some of the challenges that people face. But also, when we come through that door for our class, we are all equal. Everybody is there just to enjoy themselves and to do what they feel they are able to, which is what I stress to them because I know and I've been there. I also have a long-term condition myself. I have a condition called ulcerative colitis. That's an autoimmune condition where my immune system attacks my bowel. So the lining of my bowel becomes inflamed and ulcerated, causing a whole host of symptoms, including diarrhea, anemia through blood loss. There could be joint pain. Fatigue is one of the most debilitating symptoms I experience. So for me, it's also been about, well, how do I pace myself? How do I still do what I want to do, but maybe have to adjust how I do it? And again, this has given me an insight to be able to help other people to do that, particularly when it comes to dancing. And I truly believe no matter what, everybody can dance. One of the most positive things that came out from the car accident and my experience of mental health issues and my whole journey navigating my way through it was actually I completely changed careers. So I now work in mental health, and because of my experience, it means I have the ability to empathise even more. So when people tell me things, there's a lot that I can really relate to. Now, everyone's experience is different and what they go through, but there are also ways that we can relate through listening and understanding and keeping an open mind. And for me, that's been one of the most positive things that I've done, is actually completely switch careers so that now I can support people who may be experiencing mental health issues, some things which may be similar to what I've been through, and help them find a way through and navigate what can be a really difficult and really tough journey, but to then see positive outcomes and to also be able to use my own experience and my own knowledge to help guide people through.
Thank you very much to Anisha there, and we are so happy that you are doing so well. So now it's time to get positive news with the lovely Helena Chard in this week's A Helping of Happy. Got lots of news for us, Helena?
I have. I've got random acts of kindness and some little snippets and various things. But I'm going to start with something which is an oldie, actually, a little bit of an oldie, but a goldie as I call it. Natalie Belsito in Michigan was just a student looking out the window and saw a squirrel drowning.
Oh.
I know.
I wonder what that looks like.
I know, just saw it sort of like flapping around. Okay. Raced over, managed to save the squirrel, dried it, hair dryer and everything, and basically got it alive, got it back.
Gave it a kiss alive.
Yeah. And it was the whole thing. I think we had the similar thing here. How she did it, she suddenly thought, oh my goodness, it's such a tiny creature. And there was a sitcom there, The Office, it's not the same as The Office here, where they had the compressions to the rhythm of the Bee Gees, Staying Alive. So she literally did it, and that's how she did it. Aww. And her friends gave the squirrel a send-off, and it ran up the tree and everything, but she just wanted to tell everyone about it, you know, that obviously it couldn't help itself. So just that sort of little bit of kindness, it inspires people to help others, basically. Yeah. So I just thought it was quite sweet. Nice. And now I'm going to speak about ex-soldier Michael Allen. He's 38. I've spoken about him before because he came back from Afghanistan and also serving with the Royal Welsh Regiment, has PTSD, couldn't cope, and decided he wanted to hide away, which, you know, was great for him, it worked for him. He built this most amazing house. He was meticulous about it, most stone, wood, beautiful, but unfortunately he didn't have planning permission, and he did have to, it was torn down, and it was a really sad time. This was, I think, some point last year. But things have turned around slightly, which is great for him. And the cabin has been rebuilt with the help of Natural Resources Wales. So a charity stepped in to help, which is lovely, near Newport, so still in Wales. And he is also now working with officials to help other people with PTSD actually in the complex, providing help and support. So it's giving him purpose, which is lovely. So we're really pleased for Mike Allen. So that's great news. Moving on to somebody I love, Emily Sandy, who I think is absolutely fantastic. Quite recent, well, a little while ago, she decided people didn't want to hear her voice, didn't want to see her, and she was going to go back into her training that she did, I think, which is in medicine. But now she's back on track, really confident, has brought out the most amazing album, and she basically wants to give people a refuge from darkness. It's very, very, very upbeat. All her songs channel love. It's just a really beautiful, warm scenario. And in fact, she was inspired recently when she went to Zambia to understand her roots and her mixed race heritage. Until then, she was brought up in Scotland, and it completely changed everything for her. She just feels really, really whole. But I think everyone should try her music, which I think she's brilliant. So I'm pleased that she's brought out another album, which is great. Moving on, we do have time for another little one. I think I'm going to do just a sweet one. To do with kittens this time. And office kittens named Debit and Credit were introduced to a company that deal with finance. And it was just basically to give morale to all the people working there, and it absolutely worked. They got debit and credit from a charity, a cat charity, and now employees are really, really happy. They look forward to coming to work. It's just interesting how sweet it is, and I think it's also to show, you know, go and get these cats from charities, because obviously it homes them. Not every workplace could do it, but it obviously worked for them. What do they do with them at the end of the day? Do someone take them home? I think someone looks after them. I don't know who exactly, but they're also now famous on Instagram because they do a little running story. But it's just a sweet little story.
Helena, thank you so much. I think we should have one in the studio.
I think we should too.
I'll take her.
Yeah, I'll take it too.
Thank you. We'll see you again next time.
Yeah.
So everybody, recently we showed you how to be kind to your guts by making fermented foods such as sauerkraut. But there are lots more things that can be fermented, so we went back to the Fermentarium to show us how to work the same magic, this time with lemons. And also Dr Rob Hicks will be answering your medical questions, including this one. My hair has started breaking and falling out. Why could this be happening? Find out the answer after this break. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, host of the UK's only TV programme dedicated to mental health and well-being, The Chrissy B Show, which airs on MyTV Sky 191 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Follow our social media on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter at Chrissy B Show and our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. For more information, visit chrissybshow.tv. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's time to head over to the Fermentarium, showing us how to make Moroccan fermented lemons.
Hello everyone, welcome to the courses by the Fermentarium. My name is Anna Jazdova and we are here at the beautiful Plant Academy where we run some of our courses. So what are we going to do today? As the name suggests, the Fermentarium, we are all about fermentation process. So today we are going to make some Moroccan fermented lemons. Right, so what do we need? We need lemons and we need salt. We can also add some of the spices which we're going to use. Right, so what you do? You chop off those ends of the lemon, put it away. Straight away prepare your clean jar. I'm going to use the jar straight away, we don't need any bowls. So we're going to cut, how you cut your lemon is up to you. I'm going to cut it lengthways. Don't worry about the pits inside. Do make sure to use the lemons that were not coated in wax. Just put this in. So per one medium lemon, you would want to use 1 measuring teaspoon of sea salt. I'm going to measure it like this. Yeah, we're putting this in. Now using the magical tool that I've got here, some wooden stomper, I'm going to squeeze out the juice of the lemon. I'm going to cut another lemon, also lengthways, and throw that all in. In goes more salt, so basically each lemon needs a teaspoon of salt. And we squeeze again. How many lemons you use will depend on the size of your jar. Cut it lengthways, we throw this in as well, and add another measuring teaspoon of salt. This ferment is quite salty. The same way you can ferment wines as well as any citrus fruit. I'm going to close this, leave a couple of centimeters from top of the jar because there will be some fermentation activity on the surface. Close this. If you can find something like stone, like this, I've got some lemons here going. They are they cut a little bit different way, but I've got a weight on them. So that's a stone that I boiled and cleaned quite well, and it keeps everything under brine. That's quite important. So if you can find something to press down, like maybe a little shot glass to go in, and then close the lid, so that will be pressing on everything and the brine will go up. Because remember, we need anaerobic environment without oxygen for fermentation. So you're going to ferment this at room temperature for around a month. What you're looking for is at the end of this period, you will, when you taste the lemon, the skin will be very, very soft and chewable. So this will tell you that your ferment is ready. Okay, so you can make Moroccan fermented lemons as is, just using lemons and salt. Or, alternatively, you can use some spices with it. The combination of spices is up to you. I'm going to show you some with bay leaves. You can use dried or fresh. just a few, and a bit of nigella seeds. So let's do this. Put these leaves on the side here, so we make it pretty as well. We will add very nice flavor, half a teaspoon of nigella seeds. This will make our ferment very, very pretty. Make sure to leave 3-4 centimeters from the top for all the fermentation activity that will happen at the top. Try to find something to press down, some sort of a weight. Yeah, this one looks quite good. Keep the process anaerobic. Close the jar with the lid and leave it to ferment at room temperature for 1 month. You need the lemon skin to be soft and chewable. Very nice in tagine dishes or in couscous salad, even as addition to your general meals on the side in a little plate.
Thank you very much to the Fermentarium there. So now it's time to get your medical questions answered with Dr. Rob Hicks. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm itching to drink the tea.
Go ahead.
No, we should answer some questions first.
So after
I need to earn my tea.
All right, okay then. So first question, Rob. My hair started breaking and falling out. Why could this be happening? Could it be due to the change of seasons, as in the summer it felt a lot thicker?
That's a really good question. There's lots of reasons why somebody might lose hair and why it might break. And actually, the seasonal thing is a real thing. For a while, people thought it was just sort of coincidence.
Yeah.
But some people have actually researched this.
Oh, okay.
And they found that, you know, we can lose hair more at certain parts of the year. So those months where we might shed more hair than we normally do, now remember that on every day we normally shed somewhere between 50 and 100 hairs, and that's normal, and they grow back.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems like a lot, but actually they do generally grow back. So, you know, it's part of the whole growth cycle. So you get the growing, the intermediate, and then you get the rest in the shedding, and that's when all the hairs are going through this sort of phase independently.
Okay.
So January sort of is one of the months, but actually it's July and August we tend to shed more, and November, December, and yes, into January you can shed more. Now, nobody knows exactly why this happens. Some people say it's because in the summer, you know, the stress of the heat, for example, causes more shedding. Others say that actually we might grow more hair in the summer to protect ourselves from the UV radiation, which then in the winter we don't need. Other people say it could be that we grow more hair in the winter to keep us warm, and then in the summer we don't need it, and so we shed more. So the seasonal thing is real. But what I would say to you, though, is that there are lots of other reasons why you could be losing hair or getting thin. So medical reasons like iron deficiency, anemia, an underactive thyroid gland, diabetes, stress, a fungal infection of the scalp, for example, your side effect of any medication, you know, a significant life event, all those sorts of things could be responsible. So I would suggest to you that if you are losing more hair than you think you ought to be, it's thinning, or it's actually falling out in patches, or you're just simply concerned, have a checkup with your doctor so that your doctor can examine your scalp and maybe look for a particular pattern. So for example, with fungal infections, it's usually patchy hair loss that happens rather than generalized thinning. And then if you do need any treatment or any of underlying conditions to stop the hair loss, then that can be recommended for you.
Lovely. Next question. I'm really concerned about my 40-year-old son. He has IBS and refuses to eat healthily. Recently, he looked perfectly normal and then all of a sudden started staggering around with glazed eyes and shaking as though drunk. Is this a symptom of the IBS or something else?
This is a very serious question, and this is, in my opinion, not a symptom of the IBS, the irritable bowel syndrome. It is a symptom of something else, and he should be seen by a doctor as soon as possible. In a 40-year-old staggering and you know, glazed eyes and acting as if they're drunk, you've got to look urgently at what the underlying cause is. So I'm urging you to get your son seen by a doctor as soon as possible. The sort of things that could be responsible from a physical point of view is it could be some kind of infection. So it might be an inner ear infection, for example. It might be that he's got low blood sugar. It might be that he suffered a head injury that he's not aware of and you're not aware of, and this is causing the sort of disorientation that he's experiencing. It could potentially that he's having a transient ischemic attack. We call these sometimes a mini stroke, or indeed that or having something like epilepsy. So this is why he needs to be seen by a doctor and examined. It could be a side effect of medication he's taking, or it could be something down to his lifestyle. Maybe he is drinking too much alcohol and he is drunk, and that's why he's behaving in this way. Maybe he's using recreational drugs and that's what's causing him to behave in this way. But you can't assume that's the case, so I would urge you to get him seen by his doctor as soon as possible, please.
Wonderful, Rob, thank you so much.
A pleasure as always.
See you again next time. Thank you. Okay, everybody, so after the break, we have our nutritionist Hannah Richards back in the studio with us to show us an easy and healthy recipe.
So let's go inside and see what's happening.
Everyone has problems, right? Everyone goes through things, but the important thing that we were trying to get across today is that you don't have to stay alone with those problems, right? You can open up and talk about them.
If you don't tell nobody, you're keeping it inside and you're making yourself more worried.
Absolutely fantastic dancing and stomping out those emotions.
Yeah, that was fun. I've been practicing in PE lessons for the warm-up, so they've been showing me some good dance moves.
Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. So now it's nutrition time with Hannah Richards. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Chrissy. How are you?
I'm very well, excited about what you're going to do today.
I know, I'm very excited too.
Yes. So come on, what are you making today?
Well, we're going to make, they're sort of sushi rolls with this sort of nori seaweed, but we're not going to put any rice in it, so I guess we could call them keto rolls.
Keto rolls, okay.
So I'm going to just nip across and get that spoon. So the thing is with this seaweed is that when you get it out of the packet, it's sort of quite crispy.
Yeah.
And what makes it easy to roll is that it's a bit wet and malleable.
Okay.
So obviously this is one we made earlier, and you can see that it's gone a darker green.
Yeah. And it's
so I'm
soft.
just going to soften it up with some soy sauce.
Stick a lot of mayonnaise on it as well.
You could stick some mayonnaise on it as well. So Chrissy, I'm just going to ask you to chop that cucumber.
How would you like it chopped,
really
madam?
thin, long and thin if you can.
All right. Okay.
So I'm going to put in the middle of our roll some tuna, and I've just put some mayonnaise in the middle of this tuna. Mm-hmm. So it is tuna from a tin, which is really easy and accessible and cheap. And you're just going to line it really small. You don't want too much because then you won't be able to roll it. So try and keep it thin all the way down the middle. You could obviously put chicken or shrimp or anything you liked really through the middle. Then we're going to use some of these really delicious alfalfa sprouts. Have you seen these before, Chrissy?
I have. Well, where'd you get them from?
You can get them in most supermarkets.
Nutritional benefits?
Nutritional benefits, they say they're really good for the kidneys, actually, alfalfa sprouts.
Oh.
They also feed them to, lots of animals in their seed form. But then if you sprout them, then you can have them as sort of a bit of a salad offering as well. We've got some sesame seeds here, which we're just going to sprinkle on as well.
Nice. Sesame seeds are good for...
Sesame seeds, they're sort of full of your omega-3s and 6s. Nice, good blend there.
Is that enough?
That's perfect. Cucumber. I mean, a cucumber is just as a bit of an accessory, really. It's mainly water with a few nutrients in it. So there we go. Do you want to have a go?
Shall I?
You can.
Go on then.
I'm going to put a bit of avocado in
Maybe I should
as well.
Maybe I should have a go at rolling it.
You need to have a go at rolling it. And then we're going to put a little bit of avocado down the side. And avocado is a nice, good fat. There we go, that'll do. Now the moment of truth.
No, you roll it, go on, I don't want to mess it up for you.
So you do have to be quite gentle and just keep moving it around and through and in. Just keep it folded like that. There we go. Be very gentle with it. And then all you can do, and then just like this one here, you can just then cut through, depending on how thick you want your rolls. Ooh. There you go, like that. And then you can sort of see through. They're sort of very thin. You've got a couple of chopsticks there, Chrissy.
This is so pretty, Hannah.
And then,
I love these.
That's okay.
Hannah always has the posh utensils and cutlery and crockery, don't you, Hannah?
Well,
Very
you know,
easy to pick up.
I try and make things look pretty.
Let's see if I can pick it up with
There
that.
you see if you can pick it up.
Fluff on
Now,
it.
just don't let it all fall apart on me, Chrissy.
There you go.
There we
it's
go.
Perfect. Well done, Hannah.
Perfect. So there you have
Very
a
nice.
sort of a. It's not vegan because it's got tuna in it. It's not vegetarian because it's got tuna in it. So we're just going to have to say a healthy keto sushi roll.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Hannah, thank you so much, my love. Very simple. I want
Pleasure.
this now.
Simple, and it's sort of a little bit different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So sometimes people think that things are quite difficult in the kitchen, but actually
That was really easy.
really easy, and you can change all the ingredients.
Yeah.
You can make a spicy one. You could put rice in it as well, brown rice.
Yeah, if you
white
were
rice.
going to do with rice, what kind of rice would you use inside?
So there's a very specific rice which is sushi rice, and
Okay.
the grains are just a little bit smaller and stickier.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because and then you can also get a wooden roller, and you put the seaweed on top of the roller, and then you get a perfect roll.
Oh, okay.
So this is a bit more of a skill.
And look at what a pro you are to
Well,
do it without
I'm
the
not.
wooden roller.
I think I need a bit more practice, but
No, you
essentially
did
it's
well.
all there.
My darling, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll see you again next time. Okay, everybody, so now it's time to go to my final thought of the day. Thank you very much to all my guests on today's program, and a special thank you to Anisha as well, who shared her story with us about that terrible accident, but also what she's doing today, which is all leading to her recovery. So something I'd like to focus on actually is what Audrey was talking about, when sometimes we just have to take the time to think. When something unexpected happens to us, be it an accident or just a hard time that we might go through, it's like we're kind of forced to stop everything. Things happen that are unexpected. So if we take the accident example again, or even actually getting sick, we're so busy with life and we're doing so many things and we have so many distractions, and it's only when something like that happens where all of a sudden we end up in hospital, or we physically can't do those things anymore because of something that happened. And that's the time where we actually just stop everything. And it can seem like such a scary time. It can seem like, you know, why is this happening? Why is all this going on now in my life? I was doing so well, I was so busy, I was progressing in life. When actually, I think there's not much really you can do about what's happened right now. If you have had an accident and you're in hospital, for example, or something, or you're sick and you're having treatment, obviously you do have to stop things. But if you just kind of concentrate on asking, why is this happening, and being actually depressed about what's happened, of course, you know, you do get those initial feelings and the negativity and everything like that. But I think it's also a really good time to actually reflect and think about your life. I'll give you an example. I speak to mothers from time to time that have had their kids taken into care because they themselves are going through mental health problems. And they kind of sometimes say, but why have they taken my kids? I want my kids with me. I want them to be with me. Okay, of course you want your kids to be with you, but this has happened. There's not much you can do. You have to work with social services now, but use this time to reflect. For example, if you really think about it, is it a good idea for your kids to be with you while you're going through all these problems? How was the relationship with your kids while you were going through all these things? Yes, of course, I understand you want your children with you, but what I say to them is use this time that you're alone, that you don't have your kids here with you, to get better, to invest in yourself, to work out the problems that you're having, to recover completely, or at least, to start getting better. And then when your kids come back to you, then you will be able to have a better relationship with them. You'll be able to take care of them better, because that's the aim. But if you're always, for example, dwelling on, when are my kids coming back? When are my kids getting back? And you feel even worse, it's not likely that you're going to get your kids back if you're going to get even worse with your mental health. So it's really important, any kind of negative thing or seemingly negative thing that happens to us, we need to take that time to get better, to reflect, to think about our life, to think, okay, what can I do to improve myself? What can I do to change? How can I be different with other people, with my family, with my friends, with my work colleagues? Is it a time to think about making a massive change in my life, changing career, changing my goals? It's really, really important that we do take that time not to wallow in self-pity, but to actually really reevaluate things and see where we can make changes that will benefit both us and also those around us. Well, everyone, we've reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do get in touch with us. You can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet or Instagram us @ChrissyBShow. You can leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you want more information about the program, you just need to visit our website, chrissybshow.tv. And finally, if you'd like to know more about me and my mental health journey, all you need to do is visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye for now.